Well, 5 minute chat at that time was mostly about the ideas I was currently exploring. So I was at the time looking into like 2 or 3 ideas. I was in the exploration phase since I sold my company around 6 months prior at that point. And I was basically just asking Sam about all of these different ideas and what he thought. So rather than having like this huge takeaway, he was super concentrated, like super high clarity of thought, super concentrated, all these things that you would expect. But he was just super focused. I applied to a bunch of schools. I got into like a bunch, but like conveniently none of them were where I wanted to be. Like I got into like Georgia Tech for CS, UIUC CS, like CMU CS. Like I got into like these like great CS programs, but like they were not where I wanted to be. And so I chose the best one, which was CMU, and then I ended up taking the leap. In terms of like how I made that decision, I think it's always like it's up to the person. But I looked at the things I valued, which was I wanted to be in the Bay. If you're gonna try and move here, like I would recommend you come down here for like 4 or 5 days. You know, line up some friends, and then just really see what you can make of it. Because I mean, I was down here for like 3 days and I met like Sam Altman, John Collison, like basically like Frank Slootman, Will Gabrick, all of these like fucking billionaires, like crazy people. And that sort of shifted my mindset from, okay, like maybe I'll drop out to like I will 100% drop out. Stay optimistic, go do things, like literally just do things. Don't overthink things, just do. Like doing is the most important thing. You don't want to just be like a dreamer. You want to be somebody who does things. Like that's all I can say here.
Guys, before we get into the podcast, 91.6% of you guys are not subscribed. So please do hit the subscribe button since it will help get even crazier guests and blow up the channel. So yeah, let's get back into the video.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Gen Z Fast Lane. Today we have Aidan here, who is currently on leave from CMU. So yeah, Aidan, why don't you give a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm on leave from CMU. I'm here in SF, living in a hacker house, and we're building Pluma, an AI startup.
Nice. So I'm just really curious. So where did you grow up from and what was it like for you in your area?
Yeah, I grew up in Vancouver, first-gen immigrants, my mom and my dad. It was a nice area, like suburbs, not super wealthy or like, it was just basically just like a middle-class suburb. And I moved around a couple of schools. I went to like 2 elementary schools, and I think I went to 2 high schools. And my last high school, where I graduated from, was like a small private school in the North Shore of Vancouver. If you're from Canada, you'll know it.
Nice. So I actually saw a post where 3 months ago you managed to meet Sam Altman in person, which is like pretty exciting. And you actually had the opportunity to also pitch him your startup idea, right? And of course, you also handed him a Lego box for, his birthday gift. So in the 5-minute quick chat with him, like what was your core takeaway and what did you learn from Sam?
Well, the 5 minute chat at that time was mostly about what I was currently, like the ideas I was currently exploring. So I was at the time looking into like 2 or 3 ideas. I was in the exploration phase since I sold my company around 6 months prior at that point. And I was basically just asking Sam about all of these different ideas and what he thought. So rather than having like this huge takeaway, he was super concentrated, like super high clarity of thought, super concentrated, all these things that you would expect. But he was just super focused. When you were talking to him, he was listening, very actively engaging. And I think that just meant a lot. I don't think I necessarily had a huge takeaway. I got feedback on my ideas, but it was more so the fact that he was so actively engaged that just really made a difference, and extremely inspirational. I had contact with that. Yeah.
Nice. So like tying it back to like right now you're on leave with CMU, right? Like what's the overall plan? Like what was your decision on making this?
Yeah. I think I have a different perspective than most people. I genuinely think college is not useful, at least for what I'm trying to do. Like if you're talented and you want to go into startup, like it has high like signal value. Like basically it's like signal value is like other people see this and then it's like, okay, generally this guy is probably okay, pretty good. And that's really all it does. But just getting in is enough for that. And so hence why I apply to colleges. Yeah, it's like, I don't like the plan is basically, I mean, if you asked me like 6 months ago, I probably would have said like, oh, I'm going to build like this $1 billion company. I'm going to become like the next fucking Mark Zuckerberg. But, as you sort of like enter society and as you talk to all these people, meet all these people in SF who are just doing their own thing, you sort of realize that there's such a broad spectrum of what you can end up doing that, you shouldn't limit yourself to like being like this like Mark Zuckerberg type thing. Like you should not be it's good to aspire for that, but I don't think that's what you should hold yourself to. And in terms of like what the actual plan is, I think I'll just see where life takes me. I'm super high conviction on what we're building right now. We're currently in the middle of a fundraise. I think I'm going to work on this for like the next 20 years of my life. But if it doesn't work out and it ends up going some other way, it really is.
Yeah. So just diving more into this decision, like what does your parents think about this? Like, and what does your friends also think? Like, do they agree with you doing this or?
I mean, I think the Overton window for like, what you can do after high school has shifted a lot. Like it's expanded a lot. You have like the Teal Fellowship, you have Zuckerberg, all of those things that just make it like much more acceptable. My friends think I'm like being like somewhat stupid, most of them. But others support me. Like they it was in the right path. My parents, on the other hand, they're worried, but yeah, like,
But you guys are doing great. I took,
this is the homie, by the way.
hey man, yeah, I took literally off time from, I was building, but when I have the delivery everything wrong, I took off years of testing.
Yeah.
Fuck school. No. If you want to be a doctor or something, go to school. Absolutely. Like, what we're doing, I think it's right. Yeah, my parents are fine with it. Like,
The deal is that if some shit happens and this doesn't work out, I end up going back to school anyways. So, they're still.
I think a lot of people. Gotcha. Nice. So, where are you currently staying? Actually, are you like in like some kind of program, like, are you staying nearby with friends or?
Yeah. Well, first we were outside with a blacker. So me and my co-founder were back there back. And then we moved into a hacker house. So it's basically like a space where a house that just had like 20 to 30 founders. Ours is huge. So we have like 22 founders. But yeah, we live there. We share a room. He sleeps on a mattress on the floor. I sleep on like this tiny bed. But it's a vibe, yeah. The people there are amazing. Like some of them have raised over like $1 million. They're all in jail. So.
Nice. So I think this is one of the core benefits of living somewhere like SF because, you just have like a Google founder who can just like grind all the time and everyone has the same goal to expand the entire company, right? So talking about, like your experiences, I've noticed on LinkedIn, I've noticed on LinkedIn that you've like done like so many different online courses, like, Microsoft, Wharton, like edX, Harvard, like covering topics from like finance to software development, right? So what was your thoughts on taking these courses?
Well, I mean, I started like my first business when I was like 12 or like 11. But for some reason, when I was like in like grade 7 or grade 6, and this was like 2019, I wanted to become like this like hedge fund trader, this quant kind of thing. It was a weird aspiration. I don't even know where it came from. It was just like 2 years of my life. And so I took a bunch of finance courses. I ended up taking probability courses as well, and that has helped a lot. I ended up like playing poker because of that. So a couple good things came out of it, but mostly like it was kind of a waste of time. I don't think you need to take courses. Like they're cool, but like realistically, I think reading books, at least personally, is way better and way faster. As for like the programming courses, like half of it was like, I took it probably just for college apps. They were all really basic courses. I don't even remember most of them, but yeah, super basic courses, college apps. I just threw them on there. Yeah. It wasn't, there was no like super deep decision into it. I just had one with it though during COVID.
So initially, how did you find this passion of like software development, creating these startups? Like at the young age of 12, that's actually pretty impressive.
I mean, I still to this day don't like software development. I don't like coding. I think it's just a tool. And I try to code as fast as possible. I code whenever I need to. But funny enough, in the current startup we're doing that, I haven't actually written a single line of code. I've just been doing sales and biz dev. I started coding because I ran this like sneaker group when I was like 13. And it was like this community of like reselling. So I'd resold shoes for like a year and a half at that point. I knew a lot about sneaker botting, all of these things, blah, blah, blah. I was just teaching people how to do it. And then I eventually realized I could probably build my own Adidas sneaker bot. And so essentially I built this bot that would just, using machine learning, a couple other things, some web scraping tools like Python or whatever. I basically just built this bot that would just bypass Adidas bot detection, and it could actually buy a shitload of shoes just using proxies. And that's kind of how I started doing. Yeah.
Nice. So like, I think many people have like that misconception of like, you have to do everything by yourself, right? But do you think like having like this co-founder area where you have like two co-founders and you're a personal founder or a co-founder, do you think that really helps a lot with your other startups that you've done? What was your overall experience with this relationship with other co-founders?
Yeah. I think you need to be careful, especially when you're doing like a startup, not just like some business project. Cause it is intense. Like they call it a co-founder marriage for a reason. You're like spending like more time with them than you will like your fucking family. I've always had co-founders, like basically every company I've done, except for like every idea I've explored has been with somebody else. I find that having somebody helps really keep you accountable. And then, having two heads together is always better than one. It's just, you have to learn how to manage that relationship, and you have to sort of learn how to read the person. You have to put in a lot more effort into the relationship side. It's hard. Like the relationships are hard. So choose like a good friend, somebody that you trust deeply, but also just be careful. If you don't have to, like, don't just pull somebody, but like, just do it yourself if you don't have anybody really good in mind. Like it's something that should come naturally, not something that you like.
Nice. Yeah. So for someone who's like looking to be, in the Bay Area, because, it's very popular that it's a really heavy tech hub, right? There's like lots of startups there. There's Google, and there's basically all the big tech giants all there. So for someone who's like looking for a co-founder, there's so many different options. What would you say is the best place to find like a co-founder in, the Bay Area? And do you firstly have like a sort of like criteria that you look for?
So in terms of like, where do you look for a co-founder? Meet people, go to events, meet people. There's some cool programs like On Deck and others like, YC hosts events. Go to those events, talk to people, tell them that you're looking for a co-founder, tell them about what you're exploring. And chances are, even if they don't want to do it, or they're already committed, or they for some reason don't want to do it with you, they probably know someone who does, like at least one person at that event. So just talk to as many people as you can. YC has a co-founder matching program. I've heard good things from some people. I've heard like bad reviews from others. Give that a shot. But I think if you just come to the Bay and you meet people and you're genuine and honest, you will be able to find a co-founder. In terms of criteria for co-founders, you have to look for somebody who's like, it's like super, super aligned with you. Like you have to talk, you have to make sure the vision is on point. And, most importantly though, it's like, even if they're not like the smartest person, like you could have somebody who's like 100% intelligent. And then maybe like, 80, like there's this phrase, it's like they need to have the dog in them. Like, you got that dog in you, like that mindset, that grind set. I don't know whatever you call it. It's kind of weird to describe, but like, it's just a thing. Like you have to have it. I'd much rather have somebody with that at like 60% intelligence or like a 120 IQ versus like a 160 like IQ, person who's just unmotivated or like needs to be micromanaged or all those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Got you. So like right now, I'm just really curious, like what's your day-to-day schedule looking like, especially when you don't have any courses to take and like everything's basically on your hands, right?
I mean, yeah, you have to figure out like what's the most important thing. Like that's that's a fun thing, right? It's like I can wake up and sleep whenever, and I can work on whatever I want. It's all up to me. So I can go as fast as I want. Like there's no restraints, there's no rules. You make the rules, right? Day-to-day schedule wise, last couple of days have been hectic. We did like a huge hardware sprint. So we've been sleeping super late. Like I sleep around like 4 a.m. I slept around 4 a.m. these last couple of days. I went out yesterday. Like basically when I wake up, I eat in the house and I just pull out my laptop and just work. Maybe there's like an event or some meetings. I'll take those meetings. If it's like a weekday, I'll go to like this co-working space called Shack 15 or Solana or Solaris. But basically you're like working 12 to 14 plus 14-ish hours a day. It's just like that time kind of shifts around. You always find time to work. It's just, it kind of shifts around depending on like meetings or like, events and other stuff like that. Whenever you wake up. Yeah. It's chill.
I love it. Like, nice. Nice. Yeah, I'm just still like very like interested in that point where you decided to take a leave from CMU after being accepted to CMU. So what other actually colleges did you apply to like at that time?
Not advice and not points. I'm really picky
About this kind of stuff, like where I live. I think cities, like Paul Graham says, if you haven't read his essay about cities, cities is super important. Where you live is super important. And so like when I was applying to colleges, one of the key factors was not just how good the school was, but like where it was. Like, for example, I didn't apply to like Dartmouth, Princeton, Cornell, but I did apply to like NYU, which is, it's like stronger in some like business, but like arguably it's worse. And I applied to like USC. And yeah, so I applied to a bunch of schools. I got into like a bunch, but like conveniently, none of them were where I wanted to be. Like I got into like Georgia Tech for CS, UIUC CS, like CMU CS. Like I got into like these like great CS programs with like, they were not where I wanted to be. And so I chose the best one, which was CMU. And then I ended up taking the leap. Like if you're talking in terms of like how I made that decision, I think it's always like it's up to the person, but I looked at the things I valued, which was I wanted to be in the Bay. If you're going to try and move here, like I would recommend you come down here for like 4 or 5 days, meet, like line up some friends and then just really see what you can make of it. Because like, I mean, I was down here for like 3 days and I met like Sam Altman, John Collison, like basically like Frank Slootman, Will Gabrick, all these like fucking billionaires, like crazy people. And that sort of shifted my mindset from, okay, like maybe I'll drop out. So like I will 100% drop out. And also I did a summer program at Penn, which is called MNTSI. And that was really just like, I was reflecting on last night. Yeah, that was sort of like this somewhat pivotal moment. It's like, I really got to experience what college would probably be like while also running a company and also trying to socialize. And I realized that's just not what I wanted. Like it's just not it. So I'm somebody who doesn't like to be managed. I never did super well in high school just cause like I never followed like the time schedules and all of those things. Like, had like a 30% attendance rate. So, we like to do our own thing. Yeah.
Nice. Like one of the core things that I'm thinking like in my head is I'm debating whether to go to, Bay Area because lots of opportunities, right? But again, it will be really competitive compared to like CMU, when in CMU you can easily find, like these tech guys who need like, more like business side of things, need like co-founders who are, more non-tech. So for someone who's like going into like a business sense, probably going to study business in college or something, would you say like going to somewhere like Haas or Stanford versus CMU, Tepper will be like, which one will be a better option? Because, in Bay Area, it's pretty competitive there. The CMU, there's really not much startup action going on, which means that you could probably find, a tech co-founder there.
Yeah. There's quite a bit of startup action in CMU. It's like you said, most of the really legit ones end up moving to the Bay Area. I think if you can go to school here, come to school here. Like, don't worry about the technicals. Like you're just take like 2 months and then you can learn enough. Like the CEO of Instagram or the co-founder of Instagram, Kevin Systrom, always just said, like he sucked as an engineer, but he knew just enough to like actually build something enough to be like dangerous. Like you realistically only need to be able to build an MVP or like a prototype. And that is extremely easy. It's getting easier with AI tools and Bubble and like all these no code apps that people are using. It is extremely, extremely easy. And that's all you really need. So I think like this whole myth of like needing a technical co-founder is not real. Like I'm not great technically. Like I suck as an engineer. We have 2 engineers on our team along with my co-founder. They're all better engineers than me. But you know, like that doesn't really matter. I would say don't try and go to universities because you think you're going to find a technical co-founders. You will probably be able to find people who will be technical co-founders, but like at the same time, learn the technicals yourself because that is such like a disadvantage if you don't. And it's like so insanely easy. In terms of being in the Bay Area, I think still be here for sure. If you can come to Haas versus like Tepper, come to Haas. The place is amazing. It's less about like locate. It's less about like the school and it's more just about location. You will have infinite access to people here that you would not otherwise. It's the best people in the world truly are here, especially entrepreneurs.
Yeah, 100%. So like going back to the projects that you personally did, I mean, I saw on your LinkedIn that you failed multiple startups, from 2020 to 2023, including Biosilica, Convert, Dividend. So could you like briefly break down each one and like what inspired you to start that and how it initially failed?
Dividend was easy. It was a cool concept. Like if I wasn't in Canada, it probably would have worked. There's a couple US startups doing it now, and like one of them just raised like $25 million. It's a simple concept. Like you have data, you can monetize that data for better rewards. And, like I think it works. Like it's just Canada is not the place to be building something like that. So geography also really matters. Biosilica, the tech just wasn't there. We were doing federated learning and homomorphic encryption. And so we had built out this like trial pilot system and we tried it and it was just like, okay, this experiment, this is like way too slow. And we were trying to figure out a way to make it faster, but we couldn't. And then we ended up using all the grants that we got. I don't even remember that much about Convert, but like, it was like sort of like a hackathon project turned into a startup. I think that one failed mostly just because my co-founder didn't really want to work on it. And then I was not super passionate about it either. Like, it's very standard B2B SaaS. And I don't like B2B SaaS. I prefer working on things that are much more exciting. Like, yeah.
Nice. So with all of the different like startups that you did, like where do you get the initial knowledge to like build these products? Like, do you follow a certain criteria? Obviously YC has their own, startup cycle, right? Where you find customers first before you build it and see if there's like a pain point for this, if there's a need for this. But what like type of content creators do you personally watch right now, if any? And what courses do you recommend someone doing for startup building?
All in podcast. I'm going to their summit in like a month. Read people, like read writing, blogs wise. It's like, you have like the standard, you have like Slate Star Codex, Melting Asphalt is really good. Anything from Peter Thiel is like absolutely amazing. And then I think there's just like really select figures that you have to watch out for. Like listen to everything Naval has done, go read his stuff. It's more of like in terms of like finding ideas and like getting started, like that's like the easier part. It's more of like getting yourself to a point where you're like actively looking for ideas, or like you actively understand the world enough to know like which ideas like might be good, because otherwise you just have way too many ideas and you're unable to filter through them. In terms of other stuff, read all of Paul Graham's writings. There's like a million books I could recommend. But I think the most important thing is to just like do it. Like don't think too much about it, or like think a lot about how you're going to execute on it and the vision that you have for it. But don't think about like, oh, how I'm missing all of these skills, blah, 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 whatever. Like you will learn as you go. Like Zuckerberg only knew how to code. He didn't know how to sell. He didn't know how to like run a social network. He didn't know how to run like this huge org. Neither did like Elon at the start. Neither did anybody who eventually did. You just learn as you go. And I think that's like one of the most valuable things about being an entrepreneur is just the rate at which you have to learn things.
Nice. So choose something that you are passionate about and then just basically build it. So I think, yeah, you should probably, just ensure that there's demand for this first from, the market that you're going to be targeting it, then build the product, build like MVP.
Open market plan. I mean, go do that. That's also part of building, right? It's like making sure that it works. If not, figure out what needs to work. Like if you think there's like this industry that you really care about, just go talk to people in the industry. Even if you're not directly validating like the idea, just talking to them, listening to them, and then learning from their pain points is like a great way of getting startup ideas. But yeah, there's like YC puts out like a million things about how to get startup ideas and evaluate them. I recommend just go watch that. They have way more experience, right?
Yeah. That transitioning over to your current company, which is out of stealth already, which is amazing, Pluma, right? So you're currently building an AI to find loneliness in the elder care. So could you briefly describe like, what is your overall vision with this company and what is your current technology that you use?
Yeah. I can't go too deep into it. Like we have competitors, and they haven't figured out a bunch of stuff that we have. So, but basically, long-term care home, huge part of the American like elder care system. Like 10 million Americans live in them permanently or like every year. Huge problems though. After COVID, there's deep loneliness. They're understaffed because of like a mass nurse exodus during COVID, like 250K nurses quit or burnt out. And then they're getting fined a shitload of money. And so essentially it's like, when you think about personalized care, how can you create like this experience of like personalized care that actually works and then minimizes, the time a nurse needs to spend, while improving like patient outcomes. And then also, basically controlling for like acute failures in the system, which like care homes care about. Like care homes, basically how they get fined is like some like outlier incident happens and then they get fined like $15 million or something along those lines. It's crazy. But yeah, so minimizing for all three of those things is what we're building. And the basic form factor of it is like this AI companion, right? So it talks to the resident, it interacts with the resident, and it basically provides some companionship, to end loneliness. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that we do on the back end that makes this economically viable for care homes to buy, and it actually saves them a lot of money. Yeah. I can like progress wise, we've been doing all right. We have like 200K in annual recurring revenue, ARR signed. We have 800K more in the pipeline. We're backed by Stanford, MIT, and also UBC. Like Stanford Stanford Center for Longevity is running and funding our initial pilot study, which will happen in like 3 months. So progress has been going well. I'm in the middle. I literally just launched fundraising. So I'm meeting like 20 VCs next week. Hopefully one of them just writes the first check and we can just get back to building.
Nice. Amazing. So for these, like more futuristic startups where we kind of like portraying, the future of like building what's missing, right? As YC always likes to say it, placing yourself into the future and building what's missing kind of like in the present. What was your overall, like cycle to validate this entire idea? Like, of course, it's going to be different from like, if you're going to build like another Airbnb, since Airbnb is ready, you can probably find competitors. But for building a startup, which is kind of low competitors or like many people are still in stealth, what was your overall process cycle from like a big start from scratch to like getting to where you are today, where you're raising funds?
I think it always starts with the customer. Whatever problem you're solving, just go talk to customers, understand all their pain points, understand literally everything about them. Like you have this ideal customer profile that you kind of make up like towards the start of starting a company, but you should actually try and like be able to hit all of those points. Like you should understand what they do, like basically every given moment during the day. Like, I could like literally list it off to you, like what a normal nurse, like day nurse's job schedule would look like. And you have to have that level of understanding. You have to understand what each actor in like a system really cares about, what they want, what's broken for them. And then that way you can really just build a great product. I don't think you should look at competitors at all. Like we literally have like, the only reason why I'm not saying much is because we have direct competitors and we're like super early. But they're not stupid. Like, I assume they're going to figure out what we did just maybe in like a month or 2 months time. But then like the idea is at that point, we'll be like so much farther ahead of them that even once they figure that shit out, they won't be able to catch up, just because we're executing so relentlessly right now. So yeah, don't like, in terms of evaluating ideas, like it's like, just go talk to people. Like that's all you really need to do. You don't need to, there's no complicated formula. Yeah.
Yeah. So more on the process for this startup, what you did was you basically you validated this idea by talking to customers, right? Which are these elderly care centers. And then you built an MVP. I guess you contacted these elderly centers and let them test it out and collect feedback. And then you basically iterated the entire system. So was that like the overall process, or is there anything else in between?
Yeah. At a high level, that's basically it. But that's like a very logical progression. It's like when you're running a company, obviously like there's like a lot more things. It's like, it's not exactly that, but like you can basically break it down to that. That's the process that we're basically running on product right now. Yeah. And our product is very complicated. Like there's a lot of technical complexity, especially towards the back end. And so that's that iteration doesn't happen as often. Like we haven't iterated on the back end whatsoever. We've just been building it out. And we probably won't iterate on it much just because you don't need to. It's like literally for nurses. Like it's basically just this dashboard and it synthesizes data. Whereas like the actual core user experience for like the residents, like when they're interacting with this companion, they're talking to it. What sort of gestures do you do? How does it speak to the resident? Or all of these things that you just have to control for. And that's really where we've iterated the most. Yeah.
Nice. And in terms of like the time span for like a younger startup like yourself, like what was like, when did you start, validating this idea? And like, could you like briefly describe like how long each stage took for you guys?
Yeah, validating the idea, like 3 weeks. This was like end of June. So we were essentially calling a bunch of care homes, and then end of June, that was 3 weeks, basically validating the idea. We shifted around a lot. Like basically we just wanted to understand this entire sector because we had this like inkling of a thought that maybe this is something that could work. And then we just scanned across the entire sector. We understood everything from like independent living all the way up to like hospice care, which is like, so it's like basically levels of dependence on nurses. We understood all of those things. And then we went full time. We went full time around 7 weeks ago. We moved to SF 4 weeks ago. We've just been moving super fast, and that's like the advantage, right? It's like, you don't have to go through any programming. You can just build and you can just do things that really matters and cut through all of the bullshit.
Nice. So what does the team structure look like right now?
Yeah, super simple. Me, I'm CEO, my co-founder, CTO. Below him are two founding engineers. They're part-time right now, but it might be once we raise. Yeah.
Nice. Amazing. So just to wrap everything up, like what do you think is your overall purpose in your life? And where do you see yourself, I guess, like in the next 20 years, you want to be building more startups, right? Or continue expanding on this idea. Let's just say things don't really go off, which sometimes you never know if it's going to happen. Like, what do you think your purpose is? And like, what's your backup plan, if you have any?
Well, people say like, a lot of young people here who like before school say their backup plan is school, but like, I don't think you should have a backup plan. It's either this or nothing. I made some money with my like previous stuff. I spent a bunch of it. I went on vacation and all of that thing over like the last 8 months. But yeah, I'm pouring literally all of the money that I have and all of the time and all of my effort into this one thing because I truly believe in this. And that's what it means to have super high conviction. This is going to work. Like, I can tell you this right now, this is going to work. And this is going to be what I'm going to be working on for like the next 10 years. And I don't like, if I didn't have that kind of conviction, I don't think I would be raising venture right now. But we do. And I think risk is overrated. Like really, if you think about it, if this does fail in the next 2 years, like I already can't go to CMU because the deadline is passed. Then what? Then I'll just If I really want to go to school, I'll reapply. Like that's no problem. But otherwise, I can just go build another startup. Like I'll wait. I'll have lost 2 years, but I'll have gained all of these amazing things. And realistically, like this is. I don't think I don't think we're gonna fail. Like I think we're gonna win. And there is no backup plan.
Nice. I like that. I like that. Really inspired from your position. So like, I think another core advantage is you're surrounded by like thousands of founders. So worst case scenario, really, if the next day something like crashes or whatever, you just join someone else's hub, and there's so many opportunities around you. So I think that's one of the core beauty of living in the Bay Area, the San Francisco in general.
People come here for like mainly 2 reasons. Like founders come here to scale their companies. I don't think you should come here to like start a company. I think you like come here if you're going to raise money and you're all in already and you're like, going to run that. And then there's just people who are here to find companies to work for, right? Or to be of assistance to companies. And so there's sort of these two kinds of people. And then, you can shift easily from one kind to another if you want to. So it's not hard at all. Like I have like 20 people who could give me a job tomorrow. If I really wanted to. That's just the kind of friendships and relationships that you make here. It's amazing. You got to come over, man.
Yeah, 100%. I can ensure you that in 2 years, I'm going to be coming over. 100% sure. I'm going to get into it. So like for anyone listening to this, what is one last piece of advice that you want to leave?
Stay optimistic, go do things, like literally just do things. Don't overthink things. Just do. Like doing is the most important thing. You don't want to just be like a dreamer. You want to be somebody who does things. Like that's all I can say here. There's a lot of people who talk a lot of shit. There's a lot of people who talk a big game here, but at the end of the day, like what separates like Elon from like the other million people who had the idea to build a rocket company was that he did it. And maybe like he could have failed, but he didn't. And that because he tried. Yeah.
Nice, Aidan. Really appreciate you hopping on. I'm very looking forward to getting you back on when your company becomes like a unicorn or raises like 20 billion value validation. Hit you up again and come on and you can speak all about your success.
Wow. Thanks for having me. Great talking to you, man.
Peace out.